But what we have again is we have a new speaker again today, Dr. Alan Clark, and Dr. Clark has been putting a lot of time and effort into it, and I'm sure just grateful for him. And you can go 5 minutes over because I took away some of your time, but really appreciate him having an opportunity to come up and share with us. Dr. Frisk is away this weekend, but Dr. Clark, he's got enough material for 3 weeks. And I don't think that's continuous 3 weeks, right? That's just three Sundays. 3 weeks, that'd be a long time. But anyway, we're just grateful for what he's got, and so we're going to ask him to just share with us a little bit about what God has been placing upon his heart in the subject of creationism. Thank you, friend. Thank you.
Okay. I'm sure a lot of us have felt like this. Hey, Pastor asked me to talk today about the age of the earth. Now, the age of the earth, there is a very difficult subject because it's a moving target. A common thought is 4.5 billion years. Some individuals will say 15 billion years. There was a point in time there where the earth was aging approximately 10,000 years every 5 minutes, which makes it very difficult to keep up with. Now, I went through college as an analytical chemist. I like specifics. It's not 4 grams, it's 4.25 grams. Hey, I want to know things more exact there. And so this was a major frustration to me. I've spent the last 20 years trying to find information on what they think is the age of the earth and why. Hey, well, I hear a lot of I thinks and my opinions and so on, but nobody gives me any hard data there. And so that's become a major frustration. Now, where is the data? Well, what they do is they try to come up with information based on the geologic column, by rock layers, by stalactites, stalagmites, Grand Canyon formation. Depending on your interest, what scientific fields you're in, you'll come up with different information on different areas, and it's still all conjecture. The bottom line, especially for our high school and college age people here, is don't look at evolution as a science. When I went to, I would go to different lectures, creation versus evolution debates there through college and over again over the last 20 years, and it was always the same. The creationist would stand up, he would give scientific data for his viewpoint, his information, whatever field he was interested in, and the evolutionist would stand up and tell you how stupid the creationist was and how much of a myth the Bible was. And he never gave any data. It was, like I said, it was always the same. Well, that was a big frustration to me. Understand evolution is not a science. Evolution is a religion. Okay? And get that way of thinking about it as you go through school and college and talk to people, because the fanaticism is amazing. Individuals will have the opportunity to see the data, look at the information, and they'll ignore it. And I'm going to show you some of those examples. First off, the geologic column. Geologic column is only found in the textbook. Now, if anybody here can find an example of geologic column, please tell me. I've been looking for it for years and I still haven't found one. The geologic column comes from a instructor in England who put this together, and like I said, you'll find it in the textbook, but you don't find it out in the world. You'll find 2 layers, maybe. The geologic column is trying to give examples of different ages within the rock layer, and this age is older than this age, and so therefore it's deeper in the rock, that sort of thing. Well, there are places in the Rocky Mountains where the geological column's upside down. Hey, there are locations all over the world where you'll see one or two of what they call these layers, but again, that's it. Hey, you won't see the whole column. Hey, the age of the rock formation in the rock layers is determined by the fossil formation you find there. They call them index fossils, and the index fossils are organisms that supposedly went extinct X million years ago that fits with the different levels. Hey, trilobite is one. It's a small crustacean there that is supposed to have gone extinct 2-3 million years ago. The coelacanth is another one that's supposed to have gone extinct. That is until some deep sea divers about 2 years ago found one off the coast of Africa and filmed it. That wasn't extinct. I'm sure Dr. Frisk has described others that have gone, that are supposedly extinct. Mentioning the Nebraska man, which was a whole skeleton family group put together by finding a single tooth, which turned out to be not a tooth from a human, actually a tooth from an extinct form of pig. And then they found out the pig wasn't extinct, it's living in a herd in Madagascar. Again, where they get all this stuff is a lot of conjecture. But at any rate, rock layers. Grand Canyon is a favorite of mine. You look at the different layers in the Grand Canyon, the rock formation, and as you look at these different layers, you'll see how they state that everything laid down over time and the ages of the rock and so on. Well, you can explain those same ages there as they're describing by the flood. It's very obvious by the flood. In fact, you can do the experiment yourself if you want to. Take a large, I'd recommend plastic so it doesn't break on you, but something you can see through. Jar, put a few pieces of gravel in it, put some mud in it, put some sand in it, any other form of dirt you want to stick in, shake it up real good, let it sit, watch it overnight. The next day you'll see how things settle out, just like the Grand Canyon did. Okay? Now, in the Grand Canyon, the Colorado River enters the Grand Canyon at 2,800 feet above sea level. It exits the Grand Canyon at 1,800 feet above sea level. So it's a 1,000-foot drop, and that's what explains all of the rapids going through the Grand Canyon. Just as an example, the Red River up here between Fargo and the Hudson Bay, where it goes in the Hudson Bay, drops about 14 inches. So you see how slow a slope river, and there's no rapids along that. Well, the rapids and the water going down through is supposed to have cut the Grand Canyon. Okay, the Kaibab Range is a range of mountains that goes through that area. The lowest point in the Kaibab Range there is approximately 6,200 feet above sea level. So what they tell you when you go to visit, you talk to any of the park rangers there, they'll say the Colorado River cut the Grand Canyon. I could never understand that because I really don't see how water could go uphill 3,200 feet for millions of years to cut a river, or cut the canyon. It didn't seem to make a lot of sense to me. Now, personal theory, if you look satellite at that area there of the country, northern Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, Utah, that area is like a big bowl. It's fairly flat, and as you look around in there, you'll find all kinds of fossils of marine life. So there's a lot of fossils of different forms of marine animals in there. Now, I think Mount St. Helens gave us the answer as to how the Colorado River, how the Grand Canyon was formed. On the north side of Mount St. Helens, the mountain in 1982 blew, as I'm sure you're familiar with, and as the volcano occurred, a large lahar occurred. Now, a lahar is heat coming off the volcano, melts the ice and snow. This mixes with the dirt on the hillside, all of the debris, the trees, the rocks, the whatever gets washed down. And as it washed down, it washed across the Tuttle River. Now, the lahar coming across the Tuttle River there blocked it up. So it backed up the river. And the river continued to flow, so it continued to fill up behind it. Eventually, it's going to breach. And when it breached and started to run over the top, it cut a canyon 140 feet deep and 1,000 foot wide in 6 weeks. And if you look at the walls on the Tuttle River there, and you look at the Grand Canyon, you see the same type of layering out. Now, the next one that's fun to me is caves. I like caves. I've got a daughter that's a real spelunker. In fact, I've got a couple of them there that anytime we went on vacation, we had to go to the caves. We had to see a cave. Well, the intriguing thing is they constantly tell you that it takes 1,000 years to form a cubic centimeter of stalactite or stalagmite. Now again, I went through college as an analytical chemist. I can tell you that that's not true. It's based on the temperature of the water dripping through, it's based on the rate of flow of the water, and it's based on the minerals in the soil. That's how you get stalactites, stalagmites. Say how fast they form is all based on that rate. Right? Doesn't have to do with 1,000 years for a cubic centimeter. This bat was real nice to us. It decided to hang around for thousands of years to give enough time to be covered in this stalagmite in Carlsbad Caverns without decomposing. I'm not sure how it did that either. This is soda straw stalactites hanging from the base of the Lincoln Monument. Now, I've been to the Lincoln Monument on a number of occasions, and I don't believe it's thousands of years old. These are 5 and 6 foot long soda straw stalactites. Now, a friend of mine, a real close friend by the name of Dick Nold, and his wife Cheryl and my wife and I all decided to take a little trip to Glen Rose, Texas here a few years ago. I'd heard about dinosaur tracks in that area and I wanted to see them. Well, as we were there, we also were able to go through a cave, and you see a good example of some little soda straw stalactites hanging down in the cave. Now, here's another little interesting point on timing. That's soda straw stalactites hanging from the bottom of a ceiling in a parking lot up in Minneapolis. This is right next door. I forget the name of the street there. My daughter could tell you, but it's right next door to the Art Institute. We went up to my daughter's graduation there, and I looked up in the parking lot, and here right beside the elevator is stalactites. So obviously these are not thousands of years old. You're going to feel like this a lot, okay? Especially the high school and college students, all right? You're going to feel like this a lot because you're talking to individuals there that just don't understand, and they don't want to understand, and remember, it's a religion. Now, Paul said, willingly ignorant. I like Dr. Hoven's comment. Dr. Hoven says, dumb on purpose. And this is real accurate. Okay, now, remember I said we went to Glen Rose, Texas? Well, in Glen Rose, Texas, in the 1930s, they had a large flood. The flood washed away a large area of the riverbank, and when it did, it exposed dinosaur tracks. Hey, those of you that are interested, you can come on up and take a look at it there later. But this is an Acrocanthosaurus. Say that 4 times fast. Any rate, an Acrocanthosaurus is a type of meat eater. It's in the same category as a Tyrannosaurus or an Allosaur, etc. But there's a bunch of these tracks running through this valley. There's also tracks of a sauropod, which is a long-necked dinosaur, running through the area, and those tracks are about yay big around. They're too big to carry around. So you'll see those. There's a couple of other dinosaur tracks in this area. The park is called Dinosaur Valley. And it's really easy to find. You go to Glen Rose, you go on Main Street, follow the main highway through town. It's a huge town. It's probably, 4,000 people. I mean, it's really big, so it's hard. You get lost easy. But anyway, you drive through town, get to the southern end of the town. There's a blacktop goes off to the right. You take that, go down a little ways, take another right, and that takes you, blacktop, and it takes you on in. Now, go in and talk to the people there and ask them about human footprints. And what you'll hear is that in the 1930s, there was a judge that went into this area. He was in the town, went into this area hiking, and he found human footprints beside the dinosaur footprints. Okay? Well, later on in the 30s, was the Great Depression, and in the 30s, people found out real fast that individuals loved souvenirs, and so if they took these tracks, they could sell them. And so they carved out a lot of the tracks. Well, as time went by, they figured out that not only could you take out the tracks, but you could also carve footprints into stone and fool people and make them think that that was a dinosaur or a human footprint. And so they did that. Well, then, of course, the story progresses. And as the story progresses, now you go back and talk, and oh yeah, there's human footprints down there, but they're all carved into the stone. Okay, as you turn the corner on that last blacktop to go in, off to the right-hand side is a private museum there. It's probably the size of this room, but the individual that runs it has a major interest in Noah's Ark and actually built a scale model of Noah's Ark inside that's about 10 foot long and about 4 foot wide there. So it's big enough you can see, and he'd done a marvelous job. It's fun looking it over. But the big thing is that in that museum, there's a human footprint stepped on by an Acrocanthosaurus. So obviously they were both there at the same time. Okay, now, a little comment on these footprints. If the soil is fairly heavy in calcium carbonate, it will harden up almost like cement does. So if the human came through and the dinosaur came through and stomped on the same place, within a matter of hours, then it would harden up underneath the sunlight enough so that so that it would stay there. And so you'll get these fossilized footprints. And that's where they came from. All right. Now, if you look at that fossil, the human footprint with the dinosaur footprint on it, the individual that carved this footprint did a marvelous job. Because when you put it underneath the CT scanner, you see the pressure lines in the stone underneath the ball of the foot, the heel of the foot, and underneath the corresponding structures on the dinosaur. Now, how he was able to carve these pressure lines down in the stone, I can't tell you, but that's this piece that he has in the museum. Okay, now, when I was about 17, I remember reading an article there where an individual was was going on and on about how amazed he was at this English archaeologist that was able, in the early 1900s, was able to find cities in Palestine. And he just had an uncanny ability to be able to pick up all of these different cities, find the different cities. And he found Jericho, and the article was talking about what he said and what he saw. When he found Jericho, if a city is besieged, they're going to go after it with battering rams. These walls are going to fall down, and they're going to fall in. He said when he found this area that he thought was Jericho, the walls didn't fall down. They fell out, as if pushed out by a giant hand. And as he went around inside the city, yes, it was pillaged and all of the valuables were taken, but the grain was still in the granaries. Now, as you remember the Battle of Jericho, the people were not supposed to take the animals and the foodstuff, which you don't do if you're pillaging a city. You're going to take everything, including the food. And so this city still had the grain in the grain mills. Okay? Now, I thought it was intriguing because at 17, I could tell you how he did it. It wasn't any big mystery to me like it was to this guy writing the article. He read the Bible. Okay, that told him where to look, and he found it. All right, now, I've learned from that age that the comment, let the Bible be true and every man a liar, is accurate. If you run into someone that throws something at you that sounds like it could be possible, it's a possibility, they've got a good argument, maybe this could have happened. If it doesn't agree with the Bible, it didn't happen. It happened the way the Bible said. And the only thing is you haven't learned how it happened yet. And it's really shown up there. The last 15 to 20 years, the amount of information is just phenomenal that has come out on the internet and in the books and so on of pieces of information that are proving the Scripture. One of my major interests is history, and I'm talking history from Noah to the present. How did the Bible affect people in the surrounding area, or how did the secular world affect the Bible? And it explains a lot of information there in the Scripture that you kind of scratch your head at because it doesn't make a lot of sense. Well, it does. Okay, it does make sense. Now, going back into Job, there you'll see the verse I'm sure you've heard a number of times. Behold, Behemoth, who I have made with thee. Behemoth was made at the same time. Now, what's a behemoth? Well, behemoth in the text, it just means big beast or large beast. So it really doesn't give you a lot of specifics. Okay? Some of the commentators have said they think it was probably a hippopotamus, maybe an elephant, something like that. Well, the fossils in the area don't show hippopotamus. To my understanding, hippopotamus didn't show up in the Jordan Valley. I do believe there were elephants there, but I don't know of any hippopotamuses there. But you go on there to verse 17, and it says, and he moveth his tail like a cedar tree. You ever seen the tail on an elephant? Or a hippopotamus? Doesn't look much like a tree to me. There. So that really doesn't fit very well. That looks like a tree. And so look in the Jordan Valley and what's found there. Well, those areas in red circles, those are fossils that were found in the Jordan River. or Jordan River Valley. So there definitely was long-necked dinosaurs in the Jordan River Valley. Now, it also makes a lot more sense as you go on a little further, and talk about, reading through the scripture, it talks about how he likes to lay in the river and eats the reeds and fens and doesn't worry about the Jordan when it floods, etc. Well, the bigger the dinosaurs got, the harder it was to walk around on land, the more they liked the water because it helped with buoyancy. Okay? But again, those areas have been found, and they can reconstruct from that enough to show you there were long-necked dinosaurs there. Now, this is Dick there in Glenrose. Dick is semi-happy at this point. He's doing this for me. He's in the water. Now, this is February in Texas, which is 60 to 70 degrees, but still that water's cold, okay? But he did this for me as a favor because right now he's standing in a human footprint. It's the size of his foot. And just over a little ways is 2 or 3 of these, and there's a couple of the long necks footprints in that area as well. Okay? A man by the name of Taylor went to Glenrose, Texas, to look. Well, actually, I'm one more thing first, and then we'll talk about Taylor. In the 1940s, National Geographic sent some individuals to Glenrose to take a look at these tracks. The individual came down, stood on the bank of the river, looked into the camera, and said, "I see nothing here that refutes evolution." Well, he didn't, because he didn't look. He refused to go over to the river. So when you hear individuals make statements like that, that doesn't make a lot of sense. Well, obviously the footprints are there, so why does this not refute evolution? Well, look into it a little bit more. A individual in the, I believe it was in the 50s, they did a lecture in Tennessee about these footprints, and 2 days later there were 2 individuals found with hammer and chisel down in this area destroying some of the footprints. Okay? Like I said, evolution is not a religion, or not a science, it's a religion. Okay? Now, these are the Taylor tracks. If you look up in the internet, look up at the internet and look under Taylor tracks. There, you'll hear about a gentleman that decided to test out this theory of everything being carved. And so he went to Glenrose, found an area where the tracks were going off into a riverbank, and then excavated the bank for 200 feet. And the footprints keep going, left, right, left, right, left, right, all the way up there, just like they're supposed to. The next one was right in line with where it should be as a footprint going into the bank. All right. So I don't understand how you can say all these footprints were carved. Now, Louis Leakey, there was the individual that discovered Lucy. And Lucy is supposed to be the missing link between humans and the great apes. Well, Lucy, as I'm sure Dr. Frisk told you, there turned out to be a extinct form of primate. It wasn't a human. It was an extinct form of a primate there. But when this all came out, and I can remember, I'm old enough to remember when it came out in the articles and the newspapers and the magazines and so on, this man was revered. I mean, this fantastic find, and it's amazing what he's accomplished and what he did and so on. That is until his wife in Rhodesia found human footprints along with dinosaur footprints. And an example of this is found, as you see, in Tokyo, Japan. Now, I put in here, back up, wrong one. I put in here where they found it because that gorge is where they found Lucy. Okay? So the human footprints and the dinosaur footprints are still in the same place. And like I said, they were geniuses until she found this, and then you didn't hear anything about them anymore. Okay? Now, if you like to travel, you like vacations, and want to see it, these are places around the country and the world where you can go and find dinosaur footprints. This one in... there it is, Antelope Spring, Utah. That one has a footprint of an individual running around in a sandal standing on a trilobite. Okay? Again, ages just don't make sense. Now, another point to throw out here. Again, I went through college as a chemist there. That was my interest area there. Did some work using carbon-14. Carbon-14 is accurate out to approximately 6,000 years. And then it falls off. Then it starts bouncing all over the place. The data, the points are just all over there on the graph. You really have to get into the jokes we had in college. We had I had a poster that had Murphy's laws. Murphy, if it can go wrong, it will. That sort of thing. Well, we had Murphy's laws of the lab, and one of Murphy's laws of the lab was first draw your graph, then plot your data. Well, I'm pretty sure that's what they did. Okay, if they go out beyond 6,000 years, because like I said, the dots are all over the place. And if you try to use the other forms of dating, like potassium argon and I'm blanking on the other kinds right now, but at any rate, the different chemicals for dating, they're not very accurate either. There was a volcano that went off in Hawaii there with a large lava flow, and they found human footprints in this lava flow. So they wanted to date those human footprints, and they found them like 19 million years old, something like that. Well, there's a problem with that. The volcano went off in the 1800s. No, the dating methods don't work. Okay, there. Well, Pastor, actually, I'm doing pretty good here because this is the end of the first section. Hey, there. We gotta end here with a little bit of a joke. Hey, Ole and Sven were two ministers in northern Minnesota, and they were talking and working. Well, outside the church, they put up this sign. Hey. Well, about that time, a guy came flying by in a convertible there and yelled over at him, "Hey, you religious nuts, leave us alone." Hey, well, a few seconds later, you heard screeching tires and a big splash. Ole looked at Sven and said, "Maybe the sign should just say..." But I guarantee you the evolutionists won't believe you. So it's a waste of effort. You can try to talk, hey, you can do your best, you can try to educate, you can talk to them, but if they want to argue, you're throwing your pearls before the swine. Don't waste your time. You're not going to convince them. All you're going to get into is a mindless argument that comes back and attacks you. Okay? If people want to know, be always ready to give an account of the hope that is in you.